That's very clever. Basically, you wanted to buy some Elvis records, and you'd say, "Here, son, here's an Elvis record for you." You listen to it yourself.
He was mad about it.
You were mad about him.
Yeah. And I remember being 8 years old in school, and we were doing a school concert, and we called it Countdown. At the time, Channel 2 had Countdown. That was really big. And I went on and did Follow That Dream. And it wasn't that long after that Elvis had died, and I remember sitting in the room, and everyone from every other class was running up and going, "Let's find Tony and tell him, let's find Tony and tell him," you know? And it was just an experience. It was like a dream. Because you see someone on television. I remember Dad saying we're going to go and see him one day over in the States, but that never eventuated, unfortunately.
But you're now an actor as well as an entertainer, and
yes.
You've actually done a commercial as Elvis, I gather.
Yeah, two
commercials as Elvis.
Yeah, you get typecast, unfortunately. Like I did try about 6 years ago to get a rock and roll band happening, but the bookings I always seem to get are doing Elvis because
the demand is for Elvis.
It's such a big demand, and the work is always there for Elvis. Everybody, whether you're a heavy metal head or an old person or a young person or you're into punk music, I think everybody loves Elvis music. There's always one song that everyone can relate to. People get married to songs and they remember a part of their life that revolves around an Elvis song or film that came out at that time. I just think he's just got the biggest range of music that just can't be topped by anyone.
Well, perhaps we'll get you to do a number to close the show for us tonight.
Sure.
Okay. Where's Frank Heffernan? Frank, over here. How did you get started? How did you come to start doing Elvis impersonations?
Well, I started about 10 years ago, actually. I play with a rock and roll band, and we'd get a lot of people to come up and say, "Gee, you sound like Elvis." So after about a year of that, we just started to put a show together, basically. But I've been an Elvis fan since 5, 6 years old.
I'm just interested, Charlie Hodge, you knew the real man. You've heard a lot of the impersonators because, as I said at the very beginning of the show, the 200 of them now signed up with the Elvis Presley Impersonators Association. How do they compare? How do you feel about the impersonations?
Well, Elvis himself said that impersonation was the highest form of flattery. And I find that too. And I never try to really compare any of the young men who do Elvis or do his show. I look at the whole picture, not only the person singing, but the band with them and the audience. And if the audience is enjoying the show, then they're delivering a happiness to them.
But did Elvis have some special quality that singled him out? I mean, obviously,
yes.
Many people have been able to impersonate him.
I have my vocal coach when I was a young man teaches his students, and I believe what he says is true. With Elvis records, he says that Elvis had a love tone in his voice, and whether he was singing rock and roll up-tempo or doing a ballad or a gospel song, you could feel his love for you, and that transcends all languages.
A love tone in his voice.
A love tone, yes.
And that's for real. That's not just imagination.
It's a love tone. Because you ask these young people, or these older ones who've listened to his records for years, and they love him. And like you say, they've never seen him in person. So what can be an explanation other than feeling a love to them and then them wanting to return that love?
But do you love him because of the love tone in his voice, or I mean, have you? Yeah, a bad way to go out, is it? Elvis lives, I can see that. Well, look, let's go out with Tony Calgano. Thank you all very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll all be back next week. Hope you enjoyed tonight. Here's Tony Calgano to take us out.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't when they said you were high class, well, that was just a lie. When they said you were high class, well, that was just a lie. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all